Okay, we're live here. Welcome to the live stream here on Cure Medicine, and I'm with Brad Parkinson today, once again on our live broadcast, and we're going to talk about long COVID today and vitamin D, and we're going to look at a study. And the question for Brad and myself is something as simple as this vitamin potentially a cure for chronic fatigue and long COVID? And how are you, Brad? How are you going today?
Yeah, great. Yeah, this is a great topic and very relevant still. We often talk about COVID and how it's impacting immunity in general and the repercussions from what I guess we're still in the COVID era. I was going to say from the COVID era, but I think we're still in it and we're still trying to sort through it. And I think vitamin D is one of those amazing tools that we can benefit from, especially patients that are dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome, as the paper suggests in that we're looking at today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into it. I'm just looking across at this screen and clicking. I just seem to have no video on my screen. I'm just going to check that out. I can see you on the screen, but it seems like it is live.
Well,
Sorry to hold up the discussion, but
it's all right. We can restart anytime. I'm not
yeah,
seeing
oh no, I
any
can
video.
see. I can see me. That's fine. Okay, let's continue then. Yeah.
Well,
So
just on that, I've got YouTube open and there's nothing up there yet.
there's definitely, I can see live. It's running. You just have to refresh the screen.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's running live. Yeah. Okay, yes. Sorry about that. We're almost there with our technical issues. Probably shows our age, hey, Brad?
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. So the study, which I will bring up on the screen, it looked at around about 25 patients with chronic fatigue, and they developed it after having the COVID vaccination. And after having the COVID vaccination, they developed chronic fatigue or ME symptoms. I'll just share that screen there. There we go. And then I have to open this up. And then I'm going to pull this down here. Okay, we've got that on the screen there. You can see this particular study from Nutrition Journal, efficiency of vitamin D replacement therapy of 28 cases with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, after the COVID-19 vaccination. So Brad and I are going to dive in today to talk about those naturopathic foundational things like vitamin D, which were discussed at the beginning, as being potential effective treatments for a lot of things. And we'll just expand out and talk about vitamin D and other things of helping health in general. But in this particular case, with the COVID vaccination, it was shown to be effective with these 28 cases. So just briefly, can you give us an overview, Brad, of this
Yep.
situation with vitamin D and these chronic fatigue cases?
Yeah. So it looks like they've tested people with low vitamin D initially, so they're having insufficient levels or they're deficient, and by increasing their vitamin D levels, while by giving them vitamin D, it has increased their levels, which is shown in the blood results, and we've got a reduction in symptoms, an improvement in, well, actually, 82% of patients no longer met the criteria for chronic fatigue syndrome or
Mm-hmm.
ME, and in particular, sleep problems showed the most improvement, as well as the autonomic symptoms. So the nervous system improvement was really outstanding in this trial. So look, it's only 28 people, but it's done well and significant. And it illustrates how a simple intervention, an easy to access intervention,
Mm-hmm.
a cost effective intervention, as simple as vitamin D, how beneficial it can be.
Mm.
And I always say this to my autoimmune patients that if your vitamin D levels aren't right, then everything else we do just won't, we just won't get over the line with whatever we're fixing.
Mm-hmm.
So it plays a crucial role in how the immune system works. And we know with all the receptors throughout the body, the brain, it has many roles, and many of which we don't fully understand yet. And I think even this paper touches on things like neuroinflammation and other important factors too. So again, very simple intervention, very accessible, very affordable, and you know, it has remarkable results. So
Yeah, and we talked about it 2 weeks ago on the live. That was the very first live we did, and sorry about the sound quality; it was quite poor. But I've kept it up because I can see people out there are watching it still, persevering through the poor sound quality. But that was on vitamin D too, and Brad and I, we often talk about these simple solutions that are cost effective and easily accessible, because we want to help as many people around the world as possible. And just to highlight those remedies which are there right at your fingertips, and they're often stepped over in this search for some magic solution or new solution that's going to be the cure for chronic fatigue or ME or long COVID. But maybe we just have to step back to those traditional remedies, like sunbathing. We did one about 6 months ago. We did a podcast together on forest bathing. That's right, and the benefits of forest bathing. And vitamin D is just another one, perhaps a combination of forest bathing with sunlight therapy. And a lot of those naturopathic foundation remedies, it's often the case where we're searching for that new shiny object, but the solution is right in front of us.
yeah, definitely. And look, I mean, we also have done a podcast on the benefits of NAC and ALC. So you can watch that one too. So there are different emerging treatments that are showing benefits, especially for specific symptoms like brain fog and the likes, those in getting mental clarity back. However, though, you know, vitamin D is a very simple solution. And look, just to clarify too, there are several forms of vitamin D, and in this study they were using the standard D3 form. There's also D2 that pops up in things like, you know, things, greens formulas and so forth, and vegan formulas. But there are vegan-based D3 now. There's also more activated form as well that's starting to get utilized, that can boost levels a bit quicker too.
Back to the natural form. So as activated is making it simply more better absorbed, more natural.
Yeah, well, in this case, vitamin D needs to go through several body systems. You know, the liver, kidneys, absorbed by the skin when we get it from the sun. So there's so many processes it goes through, and I think it's important to note, even though it's probably the best way to get to gauge vitamin D, doing a blood test, there are some limitations to that too. So you know, I do find if people are low on a blood test, that is a real problem, and you've got to boost it up. But you know, getting levels, I mean, I guess I won't go into too much detail because this study, I think, is using the US measurements, I think, nanogram per mole. When we talk Australian
Nanomoles per litre.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, and
but it's basically it was low in these patients, and they got improvements after having it.
Yeah. So, but my point being that, you know, it's not the most accurate thing out there, the blood testing. and but it will definitely flag if you're too low, and you are going to get in all sorts of trouble if you have low vitamin D. And then if you correct it, like they did in this study, you can get profound benefits, especially if that's the only thing going on that needs correction.
Yes.
So that's what they did in this study. And like I said, 82% came out without the diagnosis of CFS or ME. That's incredible.
Yeah,
So that's
and the mechanisms of vitamin D, so they don't look at specifically what is the vitamin D doing to improve the long COVID or the chronic fatigue, but we naturopathically, we base our foundation on the fact that holistically it's helping all systems. It's helping with immunity, it's helping with hormones, it's helping with a great deal of different areas for the patient. It's helping with sleep, definitely. That was one of the factors in the study too, that the sleep significantly improved.
Yeah, yeah. So absolutely. So yeah, it has profound effects on a lot of body systems, and it's not necessarily focusing on in one area, whether it's immunity, but it can work throughout the brain and the nervous system.
Yeah.
And it's certainly been shown to do that in this study.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on, some people call me a conspiracy theorist, but I do like different theories, and I base a lot of my practice on those naturopathic foundations of traditional medicine. But this particular case research I loved because it was tying the COVID vaccination in with the cases of the chronic fatigue. So long COVID was developed after the vaccination. And I was thinking about originally back in 2020 of posting things on the internet about vitamin D and then getting it flagged as misinformation. Do you have any comments with that, Brad?
Yeah, look, it was a huge problem back in 2020. A lot of people went to vitamin D because mainly the naturopathic world and the functional medicine world were well aware of its benefits, and it's was a go-to, and a lot of people were recommending it, and they panicked, and a lot of issues happened, and well, the issues being that these platforms were targeted by the FBI, as Zuckerberg's noted, and they had fact-checking groups come in.
Mm-hmm.
That were, who were they to say? No one really knew at the time, and it turned out they weren't so good at fact-checking anyway. But vitamin D, I know I even discussed it on different platforms, and in particular one platform got banned, and that was his focus was on vitamin D, and it was all correct. Vitamin D played a crucial role in the pandemic, and we've got a lot of literature to support that now, and obviously it's accepted now, but at the time it even took even Fauci himself eventually came out and it was suggesting vitamin D. I don't know if that was in 2021 or 2022, but he eventually would say you could try a bit of vitamin C and vitamin D, and but it was just an absolute mess that 2020, and taking something as beneficial away from the public, or information about that from the public. That was problematic in my view. I think that was really detrimental, and rather than
It was so
they could have
tragic.
gone out and promoted it, and I think without exaggerating, I think there would have been a lot of lives saved if people were onto that early on.
Yeah, millions and millions, and just the ripple effect. I mean, compared to other platforms, my platform, your platform is not as large, but it just doesn't matter the number of subscribers to those newsletters or the Facebook post or whatever that got pulled, and then the ripples of thousands of people reading that and then those thousands helping other thousands. So really millions of people could potentially have been helped. And this particular study of chronic fatigue, all those people suffering with long COVID and not believing in the vitamin D, or not having access to the information, or not just even being aware that their vitamin D levels affect their symptoms. It's really tragic.
And I think what's important too is the dosing may have needs to be monitored by practitioners who are aware of the
that's a really valid point.
Benefits, because I think, and going back then too, certainly leading up to the pandemic, a lot of doctors, if in Australia, if it's 50 or above, that's considered fine and it's ignored. And 50, it's nanomole, isn't it, here in Australia? Forget the equivalent in nanograms in the US, but anyway, often, and it still happens today, but I think a lot of the younger doctors and everything are more aware of the literature and the significance of having more than 50 in vitamin D, especially with autoimmune patients, and in this case, chronic fatigue patients, can be beneficial. So certainly, when we look at autoimmune patients or chronic fatigue patients, we might be wanting to boost their vitamin D levels up between 80 and 100, or keep them in that sort of realm.
Yes.
And that needs to change per season or where they're located. I mean, down in Melbourne, when I was working there and seeing patients there, obviously that there's a lot more issues with vitamin D because the lack of getting it, the time of year.
Geography, yeah.
Yeah, just purely geography.
Yes.
And it's important people know that the angle of the sun at different times of year, you're not going to get vitamin D, or you're going to get very little vitamin D. So supplementation is necessary, and at a higher dose is often necessary in certain individuals for a shorter period of time. We don't want to get ridiculous, but also you got to consider the cofactors that go into that as well. Other things like magnesium and vitamin A.
Yes.
So if all the practitioners like you and I, naturopaths and functional medicine practitioners, all get cut out of the equation, people will go in and probably just get recommended by their pharmacist or their GP to just take 1,000 IU a day.
Which is really common, yes.
Yeah, and it's still common today, and that may not have moved the needle enough.
Yeah, in the US, you can easily get supplements, and some of my patients buy them online from Australia. For that fact, they get 5,000 or 10,000, but Australia's TGA limits it to 1,000 per tablet. So they get the bottle of 1,000 capsules, thinking, well, and it says take one a day. It's usually not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
especially if they're low. If they come back low, then
Mm-hmm.
they've got to boost it higher. Now, I understand a lot of GPs will be saying that because if people take something, they often can be on it long term. But again, that's the importance of people like you and I being involved in people's healthcare, because we will recommend the right dose for the right period of time and monitor that care. And then adjust over time. And we can also be monitoring symptoms and different things, looking for improvements in sleep and in the nervous system, and neuroinflammation and these sort of things. So, and mood. So, you need to keep the right professionals on the job, because if not, if they're out of the equation, you're not going to get the most accurate advice. And even if you do go down and get your vitamin D and only have 1,000 IU a day, that may not help.
And often doesn't. After seeing a patient come and they've been on it for 3 months, and then we do the blood test and see, it's only nudged up a tiny little bit. Next, I'd like to get into to ask you, So we did that podcast 6 months ago about forest bathing, but let's explore some of your favorite traditional real remedies that have been around a really long time that you use, and they work, and maybe the viewer can take those on board and start using those and improve their health. Do you have any gems?
Yeah, look, a lot of go-tos, on the forest bathing thing, getting out in nature and walking, getting your steps up, but within nature and getting exposed to greenery, which will reflect red light. I think that's important, and again, I think we touched more on that in that previous podcast. And look, other things that kind of old school that I keep incorporating as like apple cider vinegar
that's a great one.
Other fermented foods. Apple cider vinegar. It was one of those things I remember back when I was doing my degree. It was quite interesting that we a lot of the traditional naturopaths would kind of rave about apple cider vinegar, and you'd see it in books, highly recommended, and the Bragg's has been around for decades and decades. The Bragg's apple cider vinegar, it's got the mother tincture, and
the one brand, yes.
Yeah, and there's other brands out there though now, but it was looked at as a great traditional thing, but doesn't really have much research supporting it. But then research was, when it was done, it had these really good results. And I think if you were to look at some research on apple cider vinegar now, I think there's plenty of it there that's really positive and shows benefits. And I think this has been enhanced by all the research and the knowledge we now have on the microbiome, and bacteria, probiotics, etc. Everyone goes, oh yeah, no wonder apple cider vinegar was so good for you. So I do try and go to that one a lot. The old crushed garlic is another one.
Oh, that's a good one. I love my garlic.
Yeah, so obviously the smell from that can be a challenge. But I often recommend crushing garlic. So for people out there who are not aware of it, when you crush garlic, there's two compounds in garlic that combine together that create the end product or end compound and you lose a lot of it with cooking. So those that say, yeah, I have garlic all the time. Well, if it's from a powdered shaker or it's in cooking and it's been cooked, well, you're not getting the medicinal benefits that you could be getting.
It's got to be raw.
So raw, crushed, and it's potent medicine for the sinuses, hay fever, this sort of thing, and as an antimicrobial, it can be really, really good as well. So and I usually say to people, bit of that, you can have it in a bit of yogurt. You can crush it up with some avocado, have it on a piece of toast or something.
Put it in pumpkin soup at the end.
Yeah,
just in the bowl, on top of the bowl.
Right. Just put it on the top. Crush it all up, put it on the top. Many dishes, and pumpkin soup's a favourite, and I do recommend that one too. So that's another one I go to. What else do I recommend?
We can go on and on. I just recently got myself a. Have you used the neti pots or the nasal irrigations?
Yes.
I just got a copper one last week. I invested in one of those. I was using the plastic one for a long while, but it's the best thing. I'm really happy with it because little by little you get a little bit of copper as well, which is antimicrobial.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to that too, isn't there? Like we see a lot of copper products coming out, and there's I think even a company now that's copper based with drink bottles and everything. The neti pots. When you say these things, I'm thinking Ayurvedic now, is because there's some weird techniques in Ayurvedic medicine where they
purging and fasting. Fasting is a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a great one. Now, though, that deserves a whole podcast on it its own,
Sure does,
because
yes.
it often goes wrong. And I often see people say, yeah, I'm doing intermittent fasting. But what they're really doing is skipping out on breakfast because they're rushing their mornings, and that's
Having
only
a
happening.
coffee.
And that's only happening a couple of days. They're not in any rhythm whatsoever, and they just fast because they've chose not to eat that
They're too
particular meal on
busy
that
and too
particular day.
stressed.
So that's not fasting. So yeah, but fasting is a great one because we know with fasting, if you can do it, if you can do it over a period of 4 or 5 days. Now, when I say fasting for 4 or 5 days, I'm thinking about the fasting mimicking diet, where you can have a few teas and soups and a few other bits and pieces, and I think even fish oil capsules have been
Oh,
added
okay.
to that
Haven't heard of that
equation.
one.
Yeah, the fasting mimicking diet, you can have this, we're having these few things over a 4 or 5 day period, puts your body in a state where it can reverse disease, and particularly things like cancers and so forth that are activated, or what it can do. When we, I'll sort of tangent again, often when we're building, say building muscle, and we're anabolic, we're activating growth factors, insulin growth factor, other things that we're trying to switch on in the body to grow more muscle, and promote health by muscle growth and so forth. Unfortunately, with that can increase the growth of other things like cancer and so forth. Now, I don't want people to run with that little snippet and say that what Brad's saying is if you're anabolic, you got to grow cancer. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying what happens when we fast, and the example I gave of a 4 or 5 day fast, with the fasting mimicking diet, you switch off all those pathways, the insulin growth factor, the mTOR pathways, all these pathways that promote growth. And it's been shown to have a lot of benefits for stopping cancer growth and so forth. So fasting is incredibly powerful if done correctly.
And often we put the disclaimer on there with support because sure, you can
Yes.
do it yourself, but it can be really challenging and scary at the same time, especially if you're on medications or you have
Oh
diabetes
yeah,
or
yeah. That
similar.
becomes more complicated very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. Yeah, so I think we've covered a lot there and a few tangents along the way. Do you have any final comments to make?
No, look. I mean, we covered vitamin D, and vitamin K2 in a previous podcast, so I urge people to check that out.
Yeah.
And vitamin D is going to keep coming up, and I think there's going to be interesting research on K2 that's coming out. I believe too. That's kind of like the next vitamin D, but I find that even vitamin A, vitamin E, the other fat soluble vitamins,
You need them
the
all.
yeah, you do, and hopefully you acquire them naturally, and you're converting your beta carotene and into your vitamin A and so forth. But yeah, they all play an important role, and I'd like to look further into particularly vitamin A. I have a strong interest in too, in a future podcast.
And I'd really like to, we've mentioned it before about digging more into long COVID, and I'm sure we
Mm.
will.
Yeah, well, you're going back to you with all your fatigue patients and chronic fatigue and ME. You'd be really looking at a lot of what's happening in the long
Yeah, yeah,
COVID space, I would
yeah.
imagine. So,
Yeah, and just want to bring as much awareness as possible to those potential remedies that a lot of people are missing,
mm, yeah,
and
the
more
simple stuff.
awareness, yeah, to naturopathic philosophy. Back to basics. Right, well,
Yep,
thank you, Brad, for coming on again and sharing your time and your valuable information with everyone.
you're
And
welcome.
I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And don't forget
Great.
to check out some next videos. Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye.